Hi guys, I'm Mary. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be starting a video about my journey with antidepressants and how they actually caused me to have some pretty severe acne. Okay, so I started antidepressants about 10 years ago when I was in college. I went to school for music and I have a degree in voice, and my voice teacher sat me down one day and she was like, your anxiety is hindering your ability to sing in the proper way. You should look into doing something. So at that point, I decided that I was going to contact my doctor and look into getting onto some anxiety medication. So I started at that point the journey of trying to find the right medication for me, and that took about 2 years. I was on a few different medications in the beginning. I was on Paxil, Effexor, Lexapro, and Prozac. Prozac ended up being my main medication, but during this entire 2-year period, I started noticing some pretty intense changes in my skin, but I was also in college. I was drinking, I was living life, and so I just kind of figured, my hormones are doing crazy things. I'm gonna go to the dermatologist. I've always had slightly acne-prone skin, but it started becoming more severe. I started getting some closed comedones and a little bit more consistent breakouts. So during this 2-year period, I end up going to the dermatologist and he's like, oh, you're just experiencing some closed comedones. We're gonna put you on doxycycline, which is an antibiotic for acne, well, that's used for acne, and we're gonna give you a topical antibiotic. So at this time, I've been on and off anxiety medications as we're testing for about 2 years. And I think the first round that I actually stayed on for a long time was about 1.5 years, and that was Prozac. Like I said, I started noticing the acne, but it wasn't something that was so significant that I felt like, it was a problem. It was just, oh, I'll take this medication and it'll get better. And it did get slightly better. The doxycycline really helped kind of calm down the inflammation, and I definitely had less breakouts. And so I just continue living my life. At the age of 24, I had some pretty significant things happen. I was in a toxic marriage. I was not doing well mentally at all. So at this point, I end up being misdiagnosed with bipolar disorder, was put on 4 different mental health medications during that time, at the same time. And it's at this point that I start noticing my skin had been fairly clear through the 3 or 4 years that I had been off of anti-anxiety medications. And I start noticing that I'm getting like this beard of pustules and closed comedones, and I don't really know what's happening. But again, at this point in time, I am not taking care of myself. And so I'm kind of chalking it up to that. And I just kind of brushed it off. But this was, at this point, my acne was the worst that it had been. I ended up coming off of the medications once we realized that bipolar disorder was not the correct diagnosis, and I continued living life, just, doing my best out here. And I got to a point where I actually made the choice to leave the marriage, and I moved back home with my parents around the age of 28. For a while, everything was really good. My skin was pretty clear. I wasn't really having a bunch of breakouts, just your usual time of the month breakouts. And then something very traumatic happened with my family in August of 2022. And it really it really took a toll on my mental health. And so by the time we got to November of 2022, the stress of dealing with that situation and the aftermath of what happened, I ended up deciding, you know, when I was 24, I was at my lowest mental point, and I felt myself heading in that direction at this point in time. And I was like, I am not going to reverse all the work that I've done in my life and on my mental health. So I am going to kind of go on Prozac to prevent my brain from falling off of the cliff. It's a lot easier to bring myself up from like here than it is from the floor. So I end up getting on 20 milligrams of Prozac, and, you know, I'm going through a lot of stress. The Prozac is helping, obviously, kind of curb the stress. My skin, which is now blowing up with a pretty significant amount of cystic acne. I had never had really cystic acne before this. Like I had like little cysts, I guess I would say, but these were like bigger cysts. And so I'm on the Prozac at this point from November until February or March of 2023. So November of 22 to February of March of 2023. During this time, my skin progressively gets worse and worse and worse. And, you know, I'm just like, life has been so stressful. So many things happened in a period of 2 years that, like, I look back and I still don't really know how I got through it. So I don't really like being on medication all the time, especially for my mental health. So I get off of the antidepressants again. This time I did not taper off, and that was a mistake for my mental health. Later on, I get off of the Prozac and my skin starts clearing up. And so at this point, I'm thinking, you know, my skin issues are related to stress. And anytime I get stressed out, my skin is just going to blow up, and that's just how it's going to be. So I end up getting into a relationship. Turned out to not be something that was healthy for me. I was only in it for a few months, and during this time, my skin is progressively getting clearer, but my mental health is progressively getting worse. And that has to do with me just getting off of the medication without the help of a physician and making some not great life choices. So I decide, you know, I'm gonna try to stay off of the medication. So my brain falls off a cliff at this point, and I'm like white knuckling it because I'm like, I do not want to get back on a mental health medication. I kind of white knuckle it for a few months, and then it gets to a point where like I'm struggling to handle it. I'm not anywhere near where I was when I was 24, but my mom and my sister sit me down and they're like, we don't want to see you fall off a cliff again. Like, you should get back on Prozac just so that you can kind of get better and go from there. So I go to my doctor and I get put back on 20 milligrams of Prozac. I'm on it for about 4 months. And like during this time, I start noticing now, because at this point, I kind of have an idea that maybe it has something to do with the medication. So I start noticing that the longer I'm on the Prozac, the worse my skin is getting. And, you know, I'm kind of freaking out because I don't want it to be that. I'm like, I finally have a medicine that can help with my anxiety, and I don't really want it to be the Prozac. I got back on the Prozac in April, and by the time we get to July, my skin is the worst it's ever been. I have some pictures, but they're all with me wearing makeup because I did not want to take pictures at the worst point. My skin, like I had a beard of acne, and they were big cysts, and like it was like blisters. Like it looked like blisters like this big, like all over my skin. It would hurt to lay my face on the pillow at night. It was just painful. And, you know, now what's happening with my skin is wreaking havoc on my mental health. Something that I deal with is body dysmorphia and really low self-esteem. So, you know, Prozac is supposed to be helping those things, but if I'm having, you know, severe acne, it's kind of counterintuitive. Like it's kind of canceling itself out at this point. And so I'm like, I think it's the Prozac. So I go to my doctor in August and I'm like, let's try going down to 10 milligrams. My life is at a much more level point now. I think we can try to go down to 10 milligrams and just see what happens with my skin. So I stay at the 10 milligrams for about 3 months. Like it gets markedly better. But then once my body kind of regulates to that dose, my skin starts blowing up again. So, you know, my doctor's like, well, let's kind of taper down again. So I went down to 5 milligrams after about 6 weeks, or I went down to 5 milligrams. And then now 6 weeks after that, I've gotten down to 2.5 milligrams. That's where I'm at right now. I do plan to completely get off of it. So my skin at this point, as you can see, I do have makeup on because there is a lot of post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, and without makeup on, my skin looks a lot worse than it actually is. So I put on some foundation, and keep in mind my period is also supposed to start in 2 or 3 days. But you can see I think that's an active pimple. None of them are cysts. They're all just pustules. I do have some scarring. This is flat. It's just there's some hyperpigmentation peeking through. Same with this. This is a healing pimple. This is a healing pimple. And then these are 2 pustules that I have. This side, as you can see, the post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation is peeking through. That's completely flat. I do have some closed comedones, especially up in here and like right here. My skin, I kid you not, is miles better than where I started. I am working on finding ways to, you know, help my anxiety that will help me to not be on medication. And every time that I've had to get back on medication, like this is kind of something that I've been working on. It has been like I've been able to withstand more before I get on the medication. And I think, you know, there are going to be times where I may have to get on mental medication. And for those times, I have things that I've learned throughout tapering off of my Prozac, especially during those times where like my body levels out and my acne starts to go up, that help my skin. It doesn't stop it from happening, but it definitely helps lessen the blow, helps prevent scarring, and just kind of makes things a little bit less painful because cystic acne is really painful. So I have been gluten-free my entire life. I'm allergic to gluten, but every once in a while I'll like eat something that has a tiny bit of gluten in it. That is an absolute no-no when I am on mental medications. And then I also decided to cut out dairy. Now, when I'm not on mental medications, I can eat a pretty decent amount of dairy, specifically cheese, and not really have any acne. Maybe 1 or 2 pimples pop up. When I am on Prozac, it's like I eat 1 bite of cheese and 2 days later I have 7 new pimples coming in. It's insane. And they're not just like little pimples, they're big cysts. So those are like the dietary things that really helped me. Again, this is going to be a case-by-case basis for everybody, but this is what helped me kind of lessen the amount of acne that I was getting, just dealing with what was already there and trying not to add new stuff to it as much as I could, because just having the Prozac in my system was doing that. It's also important to have a good regimen for spot treatments. I have a high frequency wand that I like zap really big pimples with. I also used benzoyl peroxide as a spot treatment, the 10% benzoyl peroxide, and I am on Tretinoin, which is something that I really think helped kind of curb the scarring. Do not touch your acne. Do not pop your pimples. Do not pick at them. That is what will cause scarring. And I did do that. I am human. I did that. The Prozac didn't really help. Once the acne started coming in, like my brain fell off a cliff anyways, because I'm like, what's going on? Like, what's wrong with me? So that's what's kind of caused some of the scarring, but it's definitely not nearly as bad as what it should be for how bad my skin got. Another thing that really helped was I have an ice roller. Acne is an inflammatory thing. And ice really helps with inflammation. So when my skin was at that point where I had like the blisters and it hurt to lay my head on a pillow, I used an ice roller and I would just kind of sit there and stamp it on the biggest ones. And just once they got calmed down, then I would slowly roll it, not putting a lot of pressure, just trying to cool my face. They also have like face masks that you can buy that are made to go in the freezer, that are made to like put on your face to help with depuffing. I highly suggest that for when you're dealing with severe acne. I also kept my skincare really simple. I had a gentle cleanser. I only washed my face once a day. More than that dried out my skin too much. I used the Vanicream Moisturizer a little bit in the morning and a larger amount at night. Sunscreen every single day. That is extremely important to prevent scarring and to lessen your post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation. If you're getting sunlight on skin that's healing, it can make what you deal with afterwards pretty rough. And then I also used Tretinoin. At that point, I was on 0.05%, and that was a little too much for my skin. So I was doing it every other day. Now I'm on 0.025 again, and my skin seems to be handling that a lot better. I am working on, lifestyle changes, and obviously leaving a toxic marriage and not being in an unhealthy relationship made a big difference in my mental health. But life is still gonna life, so I'm still learning different things to help me get through those hard moments in life. There are other personal things that, caused my brain to fall off of a cliff that maybe one day I'll open up about. I know that this is a journey, and I'm really happy with where I'm at considering where I was, but I'm hoping that this can help people that are dealing with severe acne and they can't figure out what's going on, because there's not really a lot of information out there about antidepressants being a cause to acne. Another thing that I think I forgot to mention is during that last time where my brain kind of fell off the cliff, I was going through serious stress, like emotional, mental, like I was not doing well. And even during that time, while I was white knuckling, right, not trying to get on the Prozac, I kept waiting for my skin to blow up, because I'm like, it has to be my stress levels. But my skin did not blow up. I had the clearest skin for that like 5 or 6 month period until I got back on the antidepressants. And then a month later, I just start like slowly, it was probably 2 weeks in, slowly start seeing more and more and more acne happening on my face. I hope that this helps some people out there that are dealing with severe acne. Obviously, getting off of mental health medication is a personal decision. It's a very, very much a case-by-case basis. There have been times in my life where I didn't think I could live without it. And I've also always been that person where, like, at the end of the day, I don't want to be on a medicine every day if I can help it. If that's what it has to be, that's what it is. But I've always been the kind of person of like, I'm just going to be on them long enough to kind of get me to where I need to be mentally and then get myself back, because I believe in building mental stamina. And I think that's really what's going to help my skin overall. Like I said, at this point, I'm at 2.5 milligrams every day, and I have 14 more days of that before I'm completely off. And I'm excited to see how my skin reacts and gets better as I'm completely off of the Prozac. At this point, this is where I'm at. My skin is not perfect, but 10,000 times better. And yeah, I hope you guys have a great day. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.